I want you to meet John. John is 58 years old. He lives in Georgetown, Kentucky. For 30 years, almost his entire adult life, he has worked at the Toyota plant. John is not a number. He's a father of two, a grandfather of three. He coached Little League for a decade, and he was proud of his work. He didn't just build cars. He built the Lexus ES, a car that proved to the world that made in America could mean the best in the world. He was proud of that. His work meant something. He was told his job was essential. He was told the America First policy, the tariffs, were all designed to protect him, to protect his job from foreign competition. He believed it. And then last week, John got a call. His entire assembly line, the line he had worked on for half his life, was being indefinitely suspended. That's a corporate word. Indefinitely suspended. It means don't come back. Now there is a new kind of silence in John's house. It's the silence of a man who did everything right, who played by all the rules, and who woke up to find the game was rigged against him. This is not a story about Toyota. This is not a story about Canada. This is a story about betrayal. It's the story of how the American working class, the forgotten men and women of the Rust Belt and the rural South, are being systematically squeezed from both sides. They are being crushed. On one side, their jobs are being threatened, not by Mexico, not by China, but by chaotic, unstable policies made in Washington, D.C. that are pushing investment to stabler places like Canada. And on the other side, their paychecks are being evaporated by a crushing wave of inflation. Inflation that is being caused by the very same policies that were promised to be their salvation. This is the story of the forgotten worker, the one who is always asked to pay the bill and is never invited to the dinner. The $50,000 prison, the betrayal of the American worker. Chuang 1, the domino effect. The shutdown doesn't stop at the factory gate. That's what the politicians in Washington don't understand. A factory like the one in Georgetown is not an island. It's the heart of a community. And when the heart stops, the entire body begins to die. Visual, a map showing Georgetown, KY. Red ripples pulse outwards, hitting smaller towns. The damage doesn't happen all at once. It happens like an oil spill, slowly, invisibly, and it poisons everything it touches. The first domino to fall is the man who lives next door to John. Let's call him Mike. Mike is a trucker. He doesn't work for Toyota. He works with Toyota. His entire business is built on just-in-time logistics. He hauls parts, headlights, wiring harnesses, seats, from a supplier in Tennessee to the assembly line in Kentucky. Visual, a semi-truck parked in a driveway, silent. The cab is dark. For 20 years, his phone has never stopped ringing. Now, it's silent. John's line is down. Mike's truck sits in his driveway. The payments are still due. His phone calls don't come. Industry haulers are reporting the weakest shipment volumes in over a decade. That's not a statistic. That's Mike, sitting at his kitchen table, staring at a truck he can't drive. The next domino is just down the street. It's Mary's Diner. This is where John and his crew ate breakfast every morning at 6 a.m. This is where Mike grabbed coffee before his haul. Mary, the owner, has known these men for 20 years. She's watched their kids grow up. Now they don't come in. They're saving their $10. They're brewing coffee at home. And Mary? Mary just had to cut her best waitress's hours. A single mom who was relying on those tips to pay for daycare. This is Main Street, and it is dying. But the biggest domino, the one that brings the whole building down, is the one you never see. It's the suppliers, the men and women who actually make the parts. According to industry reports, the number of parts suppliers that have either filed for bankruptcy or suspended operations is as high as 500. 500. Stop and think about that number. That is not a statistic. That is 500 American dreams vanishing. That is 500 family-owned businesses in Ohio, Michigan, and Tennessee. Imagine a small shop, a shop owned by a family, maybe for 2 generations. All they do is make one specific part, a plastic molding for a dashboard. They survived the 2008 recession. They survived the pandemic. They did everything right. Then the 25% tariff hits. The raw plastic resin they need to make their part. Resin they have to import just went up 25%. They have to pass that cost to Toyota. But Toyota, Ford, and GM, they are businesses. They are now forced to find a cheaper part. They find one from a factory in Mexico or from a new plant in Canada where the tariffs don't apply. The small shop in Ohio, the two-generation family business, loses its only contract. The owner I spoke to, he asked to remain anonymous. He said this, "I survived 30 years. I survived recessions. I survived COVID. But I could not survive my own government's trade policy. They sold it as a life raft, and it turned out to be an anchor." That is the domino effect. It's not just John's job. It's the trucker's route. It's the waitress's tips. It's the supplier's American dream, and it ripples out. It hits the town's property taxes. That means less money for schools, for firefighters. It hits the value of John's home. It hits his pension, which he's suddenly terrified might not be there. This is the real cost of a policy that sounds good on TV, but is a wrecking ball in the real world. Part 2. The $50,000 prison. Now this is where the story gets cruel. This is the part that makes people like John and people like you feel the frustration in your bones. It's what I call the two-sided sword. Because even if John didn't lose his job, even if his line was still running, he could not afford to buy the car that he builds. Let's be honest. Have you tried to buy a new car recently? Have you looked at that sticker price and just felt sick? That feeling. That's not just you. That's not normal inflation. That is policy. The average price of a new car in America has officially crossed $50,000. That's a new record. And these tariffs are a primary reason why. The politicians will tell you the 25% tariff is on foreign cars. That is a lie, or at best, it's a half-truth. The reality, as we talked about, is that 40% of the parts inside an American-made car are imported. The high-tech computer chips, the sensors, the complex electronics. When you slap a 25% tax on 40% of a car's guts, you are adding thousands of dollars to the cost, not for the customer, for the automaker. Reports show it added nearly $18 billion in new costs for companies building cars in America. Now, what does a company do when its costs go up by $18 billion? It doesn't just absorb it, it passes it on. It passes it on to you. That $50,000 price tag, that includes what industry experts call the tariff tax. It's an extra $3,000, $4,000, even $5,000 on the sticker price. That goes directly to paying for this trade war. Now let's translate $50,000 into human terms. For a normal American family, even with good credit, a $50,000 car after interest means a car payment of $800, $900, maybe even $1,000 a month. What does that mean? It means you don't go on vacation. It means you don't put money into the college fund this year. It means you pray the air conditioner doesn't break. It is a financial prison. The American dream of getting a new, reliable car for your family has been turned into a financial nightmare. And here is the sick irony. The very policy that was designed to protect the American auto industry is systematically killing the American auto customer. You are protecting an industry by making its product unaffordable to the public. How does that make any sense? Now, let's look north. What about the workers in Canada? Are they in this prison? No. The Canadian government, instead of building walls, built bridges. Honda is investing $11 billion there because of stability. A worker at that plant in Ontario, he knows he has a job for the next 30 years. He knows his factory is building the next generation of cars. He knows the cars he builds can be sold, tariff-free to 50 other countries. That worker has certainty. He can get a 30-year mortgage. He can plan for his family's future. John, back in Kentucky, is checking the news every night, terrified his indefinite suspension will become permanent. The Canadian worker has stability. The American worker has anxiety. And the American customer, has a $50,000 bill. This is the great betrayal. The policy isn't just failing, it is succeeding at hollowing out the American middle class from the inside out. Part 3. The Last Stand. So you might be asking yourself, if this policy is so damaging, if it's bankrupting suppliers and costing consumers billions, why doesn't somebody sue? Why doesn't a giant corporation like Toyota or Ford or GM fight back? Well, the truth is, they are terrified. Think about it. If you are Toyota, you are a guest in this country. You cannot sue your host. You cannot pick a public fight with the same politicians who give you tax breaks. So they stay silent. They absorb the losses, and they quietly, very quietly, move their future investments to a safer, more stable country. Like Canada, the big corporations won't fight this. So who will? The answer is people just like you. The fight is not being led by billionaires in boardrooms. It's being led by a small coalition of small business owners, the forgotten ones, the people who got caught in the crossfire. Right now, a case sits before the Supreme Court of the United States, and the plaintiffs are not who you'd expect. It's a small company in New Jersey that imports toys. The owner is watching his inventory costs skyrocket right before Christmas. It's a family-owned winery in California, a business passed down for 3 generations. That is now on the verge of bankruptcy because the tariffs on European wine have destroyed their business. It's a hardware store owner in Tennessee who can no longer afford to stock the tools his customers need because the steel tariffs made them too expensive. These are the people fighting. They don't have billions of dollars. They don't have armies of lobbyists. All they have is the Constitution. Visual, a close-up shot of a copy of the U.S. Constitution. And their argument is incredibly simple. It's the same argument you learned in 8th grade civics class. They are not arguing that the tariffs are stupid or bad policy. The court, unfortunately, doesn't rule on stupid. They are arguing that the tariffs are illegal, that they are unconstitutional. Their argument is this. The Constitution, Article 1, Section 8, says that Congress, the people you elect, has the power to set taxes. A tariff is a tax. The president, any president, is not a king. He cannot wake up one morning and decide to impose a $90 billion tax on the American people with a pen stroke. He cannot use a 1970s emergency law designed to fight terrorists to tax auto parts from our allies. That is not a Republican or Democrat issue. That is an American issue. This is the last stand. It's the voice of Main Street, the toy importers, the wine sellers, the hardware store owners, all standing in front of the Supreme Court and quietly, bravely reading the Constitution to the most powerful people in the world. Part 4, The Betrayal. In the end, this whole story, John's story, the trucker's story, the diner owner's story, the $50,000 price tag, it all comes down to one simple, painful word: betrayal. The American working class, the middle class, you were lied to. You were told this policy was a shield to protect you, but it was a two-sided sword. One edge is killing your job security. As companies flee the chaos and move to stable places like Canada, and the other edge is killing your wallet. As you are forced to pay higher and higher prices for everything you buy, you are being squeezed from both sides. You are losing your job, and you are paying more for the privilege of losing it. That is the betrayal. That is the truth of the America First trade war. It has put the American worker and the American consumer last, which brings us to the real question, the one for you. Do you feel it? Do you feel like you're the one being forced to pay the bill for all of these political games in Washington? When you look at your grocery bill, when you look at the price of a new car, when you lie awake at night worrying about your job or your pension, do you feel like you've been left behind? Share your story, your thoughts in the comments below. This is a conversation that Main Street needs to have. And if you feel this squeeze isn't just at the car dealership, Wait until you see how these same policies are about to double your grocery bill. That's our next report. Subscribe. Turn on the notifications. Thank you for watching.